How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some of the best Pokemon you can unlock the secondary charge moves on for raid battles. Now, some of the best Pokemon in the game that you can actually power up for raid battles are those that get dual functionality through unlocking their secondary charge moves. For example, a Pokemon like Garchomp can be used as both a dragon and ground type attacker, but instead of building two different versions, you can just unlock that secondary charge move on one of them, and then alternate between the fast move to switch between dragon and ground type attacks. For example, the ideal ground type moveset would be Mudshot plus Earth Power, and the ideal dragon type moveset would be Dragon Tail plus Outrage. Now keep in mind, Earth Power is also going to be a legacy charge move on Garchomp, so you wouldn't really want to change that, because then you would have to use another Elite TM. Now secondary charge moves can be as cheap as 10,000 Stardust and 25 candy for basic Pokemon, and as expensive as 100,000 Stardust and 100 candy for legendary Pokemon. Now in the example that I just gave, Garchomp is going to be on the rarer side, so that means it's going to have a secondary charge move that costs 75,000 Stardust and 75 candy. Now keep in mind though that it's still much cheaper compared to actually building two different Garchomp at level 40. And so once again, the cost is going to be based on the rarity of the Pokemon, and for that reason I decided to split this up into two different videos. We're going to go over the cheaper investments in this one, so it's going to be more of like a budget-ish type video, and then we'll focus on the legendary Pokemon in a separate video where you're actually going to need to have more resources. I wouldn't really worry about that though, because even as a free-to-play player, you can eventually save up enough for a candy to unlock these secondary charge moves on your legendary Pokemon, and there's other great ways in-game to actually earn a ton of Stardust without having to spend too many resources. But overall, in my opinion, this is a great way to maximize your Stardust and save resources if you're just in the process of building your raid teams, which I definitely have gotten a lot of players who are coming back to the game after the summer in Pokemon GO. Not to mention, I haven't uploaded a video on YouTube in almost 2 weeks now, so I really needed a good topic to get me back into it. But anyways, I do want to mention one more thing in regards to this strategy here, because the main requirement, as you can probably imagine, is not so much how much it's going to cost to unlock those secondary charge moves, but it's actually having a decent stock of fast TMs available. And if you're not really sure how to get these quickly, I would just do routes in game. They reward them like crazy. Like, you pretty much are guaranteed to get a fast TM every single time you complete a route, and you can complete as many as you want. So yeah, just know if you're lacking on fast TMs, just do routes. They do not award charge TMs to my knowledge. People always try to tell me that they do, but they don't. It's just fast TMs. You also have a chance to get an elite fast TM if you're super lucky, so yeah, it's definitely worth doing them. So the first Pokemon is going to be Mega Blaziken. For the charge moves, you want to have Blast Burn and Focus Blast. Blast Burn is going to be a legacy moveset, and if you don't have Blast Burn, you can alternate that with Blaze Kick, and that should still be okay. Mega Blaziken, it ties with Mega Charizard Y as the best fire type attacker in the game, and you can also use this as a fighting type Mega as well, if you don't have access to Mega Lucario. Hopefully you do, that's significantly better, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But if you don't have Mega Lucario, being able to run Mega Blaziken as either a fire type attacker or as a fighting type attacker is really nice functionality. Next up, we're going to have Mega Swampert, which you want to have Hydro Cannon and Earthquake. Hydro Cannon is going to be a legacy charge move. Now Swampert is actually a really good Pokemon in this game. You could also pair this together with something a little bit more spammy. I believe it gets access to Muddy Water, so instead of Earthquake, you could have Muddy Water if you want to run this in Rocket Battles, for example. Super good against the team leaders. Now we do actually have one more water type Mega I want to go over. That's going to be Mega Gyarados with Aqua Tail and Crunch. Aqua Tail is going to be a legacy charge move as well. Now when it comes down to Aqua Tail, this is the better moveset to have if you want to run it for PvP, and Gyarados by itself in its non-Mega form does rank in the top 50 for the Open Master League, not even in the Premier Cup either. Just in the Open Master League, it's actually that good. So Gyarados is not the best water type, obviously, when it comes down to raid battles. You have Primal Kyogre, you have Mega Swampert, which are both going to be better, but it's still a great option that you can use. Not to mention, as of the time of making this video, Mega Gyarados is currently available in Mega Raid battles, and so even if you guys are watching this a little bit after, hopefully you were able to get enough Mega Energy to Mega Evolve one of them. It's a great Pokemon to use both in its Mega form and in its non-Mega form. The next three Pokemon I'm going to go over are all Pokemon that actually start off as baby Pokemon, and you can actually take advantage of this really cool trick to save even more Stardust, which is why they're included in this section of this video. So basically, if you hatch baby Pokemon and you unlock their secondary charge moves, it's only going to cost you 10,000 Stardust and 25 candy. Whereas if you actually evolve them, it's most likely going to cost you either 50,000 Stardust plus 50 candy or 75,000 Stardust plus 75 candy, depending on the rarity of them. The first Pokemon here is going to be Mega Lucario or just Lucario by itself, and so if you actually evolve that and then you unlock the secondary charge move as Lucario, it's going to be 75,000 Stardust and 75 candy because Lucario is a pretty rare Pokemon. That being said though, if you unlock it as Riolu, it's only going to be 10,000 Stardust and 25 candy. Now going back to the movesets here, you ideally want to pair it together with Aura Spear and Power Up Punch. Neither of those are going to be legacy movesets, but the fast move is going to be legacy, so that's going to be Force Palm. So this double fighting type moveset, Aura Spear is super strong, right? Like that's going to be super good in raid battles, especially Force Palm plus Aura Spear, but in rocket battles, Power Up Punch takes on, the PvP battle mechanics, and therefore you're going to increase your attack by 1 stage every single time you use it. Not to mention it's great for using a stun lock trick as well, where you actually throw a charge move and then the opponent is just kind of stunned for a little bit. That's super good against the team leaders where you have to burn shields. Lucario is definitely one of my most utilized Pokemon in this game, and even if you can only catch it from the Mega Raids and you can't actually do that trick with Riolu to save on the Stardust, I still think it is worth unlocking that secondary charge move and even spending 75,000 Stardust and 75 candy just because it is so useful in this game. Next up, we're going to have Roserade. So this can be the same situation, right? If you unlock the secondary charge move as Badoo in its baby form, it's only going to cost you 10,000 Stardust and 25 candy, instead of 50,000 Stardust and 50 candy if you evolve it all the way into Roselia, and then eventually into Roserade. Now Roserade is going to require the use of a Sinnoh Stone and 100 candy, so it is a little bit more on the expensive side, but the nice thing about Roserade here is that it can function as both a grass type attacker as well as a poison type attacker. We don't actually have a whole lot of poison types in Pokemon Go, so it does make it quite useful. Now I will say one major downside to Roserade is the fact that it has access to way too many charge moves. Ideally, the combination moveset you want to go with is going to be Sludge Bomb plus Grass Knot, but rolling that moveset can be quite problematic if you don't have enough charge TMs. So let me just warn you right now, if you do want to build a Roserade and use it as both a poison type as well as a grass type, it could take you a lot of charge TMs. So if you don't have that many, I would not focus on Roserade. Only do this if you actually have an excess amount of charge TMs. Now finally, our last Pokemon in this category is going to be Togekiss. If you unlock the secondary charge move as Togepi, it's only going to be 10,000 Stardust and 25 candy like all the others. Otherwise, it's going to cost you 50,000 Stardust and 50 candy as either Togetic or Togekiss. Now Togekiss for the charge moves, you ideally want to have Aerial Ace plus Dazzling Gleam or Aura Spear. Aura Spear is going to be a Legacy Calm Day moveset, so you will have to use an Elite Team if you don't have it. The main use for Aura Spear really just comes down to PvP though, but as far as raid battles are concerned, you just want to have Charm plus Dazzling Gleam, that's going to be good to go, and then the other moves are kind of just for additional coverage if you do want to run it in PvP. Next up, let's talk about the Pokemon that are going to cost 50,000 Stardust and 50 candy to unlock their secondary charge moves. So we have 3 more Mega Pokemon I want to talk about here. The first one is going to be Mega Gengar. You could run it as regular Gengar too, that's fine, but Mega Gengar is the best ghost type in the game as a Mega form, and otherwise you would have Dawnwing's Necrozma to use. So as far as the charge moves you want to go with Shadow Ball plus Sludge Bomb. You don't need to change the fast move on this one either, just use Shadow Claw, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't get access to a poison type fast move, but that's honestly not that big of a deal because ghost type moves hit practically everything in the game, except for normal type Pokemon. People have done the math on this. Shadow Claw plus Sludge Bomb is still very effective as a poison type attacker, despite not actually having a poison type fast move. Next up, we're going to have Mega Heracross, which functions as both a bug type as well as a fighting type. Now again, if you already have Mega Lucario, you wouldn't really want to use Mega Heracross as a fighting type, but if you want to have the dual functionality of both, Mega Horn plus Close Combat is going to be what you want to go with, and then just alternate the fast moves depending on if you want to run it as a bug type or as a fighting type Pokemon. Mega Heracross is definitely not a Pokemon that is super accessible. Like if it's ever in Mega Raid rotation, you kind of want to do it just for the chance to get a good one, maybe even the shiny. Lucky trade that, and then you can power it up and use it. As far as bug type Pokemon go, it is the best bug type Pokemon you guys can build in the game, so it is definitely worth building for that reason alone, but if you don't have access to Mega Lucario, you can always use it as a fighting type as well, which is still pretty good. Following that, we're going to have Mega Houndoom, which probably isn't the best Pokemon to build if you have some of the other options that we've talked about so far, but ideally if you do want to build Mega Houndoom and use it as both a fire type attacker as well as a dark type attacker, you want to go with Flamethrower plus Foul Play. So again, Mega Houndoom here, it's good, it's a budget option, but at the same time, you do have better options out there, both as fire types as well as dark types. Now for our final 3 options in this category, we're going to go over 3 shadow options, and you can use these in their regular counterpart forms as well, so it doesn't have to be a shadow, but obviously if you use it as a shadow, it's going to do way more damage. So the first Pokemon is going to be Shadow Rhyperior. For the combination moveset, you want to focus on Rock Wrecker, which is going to be a legacy charge move, and then Earthquake. This is a very difficult Pokemon to get from Rocket Grunt, so keep in mind if you happen to get it with a decent IV spread like 3-star IVs, it's definitely worth building even if you don't have it on like max attack. This Pokemon has so much usability in this game. It's great in PvP, it's good in rocket battles, it's good in raid battles. It's a fantastic Pokemon to build, and even if you don't want to pair it together with Earthquake, you can pair it together with something else like Surf or even Superpower to give it different types of coverage for whatever you want to actually use it for. That could be used more in rocket battles, for example, which is what I mostly use my Shadow Rhyperior for. I have Smackdown as the fast move, but if you want to run it as a ground type, you could always change that to Mud Slap, and that's actually pretty good to use as well because Mud Slap hits super hard. So regardless of what you actually want to use on Shadow Rhyperior, I think it's one of the best Pokemon you can build, and for sure, something you should absolutely unlock that secondary charge move on. The next Pokemon is going to be another great option that I love to use as well. That's going to be Shadow Mamoswine. This takes on the dual typing of Ice and Ground, so ideally you want to pair it together with Avalanche plus High Horsepower. This is actually one of the best dual functionality Pokemon in the game because Shadow Mamoswine next to White Kurim is going to be the best Ice type attacker in the game, and then also as a ground type it is excellent to use. Shadow Mamoswine is definitely a Pokemon I'd recommend investing into. I was lucky enough to get the Shadow Hundo Swinub. You guys already know that Pokemon is maxed out right now with both charge moves unlocked. And funny enough, I do actually alternate between the fast moves quite frequently because Mamoswine is so useful, right? It's great as a ground type, it's great as an ice type. Those are typically two typings that you use quite often in Pokemon Go, at least from my experience. Now finally, the last Pokemon we have here is going to be Shadow Weavile with Avalanche plus Foul Play. So this takes on the dual typing of Ice and Dark, nice to give it different types of coverage here, and Shadow Weavile is more of a glass cannon. It has really good DPS, its TDO is not so great because it's kind of glassy, like I said, but overall you can use it as a fantastic Ice type attacker and then also as a Dark type attacker too. But again, you know, we do have better Dark types out there, like Shadow Tyranitar with Bite plus Crunch is going to be a much better option you guys can go with, but I think the dual functionality here is pretty nice. I do actually have my Shadow Shiny Weavile powered up to level 40. I do really enjoy using that even though it doesn't have the best IVs. It's still really fun, it still hits super hard, and yeah, I still get a lot of use out of it even after all these years. Now finally, our last category is going to be the 75,000 Stardust plus 75 Candy, and to be honest, a lot of these Pokemon here I wouldn't necessarily recommend investing into. Some of them you can invest into, others I would probably be a bit more cautious. I feel like a lot of the Pokemon that we mentioned earlier were a little bit better in terms of budget friendly, whereas these can, I don't know, they're not necessarily as good, but some of them are still worth building and spending the extra Stardust. So let's talk about them right now. The first Pokemon is going to be Mega Scizor, which honestly I probably wouldn't, but if you really like Scizor, because I think that Pokemon looks super cool, you can totally unlock the secondary charge move. You want to run X Scizor and then Iron Head. This takes on the dual typing of Bug and Steel. So again, as a Steel type attacker, you do have better options out there. And then even as a Bug type attacker, we talked about Mega Heracross earlier. I still think it's a fun Pokemon though. So if you do like running this in battle, that's like the most important thing, right? You want to use a Pokemon that you actually enjoy. And I think even if it doesn't do the most damage, it's still going to be a great Pokemon you can actually use because overall it's still really good. It's just not the best of the best, if you know what I mean. The next Pokemon is one that we actually talked about earlier on in the video. That's going to be Garchomp and then Mega Garchomp. So again, we kind of already touched on this. Outrage plus Earth Power is going to be what you want to go with. Earth Power is going to be a legacy charge move. And as a Mega, it's great. It's one of the top dragon types in the game. The only ones that actually beat it are going to be Mega Rayquaza and then Eternatus. So really, it's a pretty solid option. And then taking a look at its ground type relevance compared to Primal Groudon's obviously going to be better with Precipice Blades, but you know, next to that, Mega Garchomp is going to be the one you want to go with as well. So really, all things considered, it's kind of like Mega Scizor here where, you know, it's not the best of the best, but it's pretty damn close. And it's still very much worth building. It's still very much worth running. You can technically run Earthquake, to be honest. You don't have to have Earth Power. I do want to mention that. Like, the damage difference isn't huge here, so if you just want to give it Earthquake instead, not have to use the, you know, Elite TM, that is perfectly fine. Next up, we're going to have Volcarona, which evolves from Larvesta. Volcarona requires 400 candy, so as Larvesta, you have to get that much before you can evolve it. I just recently crossed that threshold, but I don't have an IV spread that I'm particularly happy about. I have a 98% IV, 14, 15, 15. If it was 15, 14, 15, maybe I'd do it. And then the other one I have is a lucky 93 with like, I think 15, 12, 15, something like that. And so when it comes down to it, I still want to try and wait. Maybe I can get that hundo and then I can evolve it. You can only build up this resource from hatching Pokemon or dumping your rare candy into it. So naturally, I'm not going to spend my rare candy on Volcarona. I want to spend that on legendary Pokemon. So I took forever to hatch all the eggs, to try and do the trades, to literally build up 400 candy. I'm not going to use that lightly. I really want to try and get the hundo before I actually evolve it. But that being said, you know, if you do happen to get enough resources to invest into Volcarona, I mean, what's 75 more candy, right? You can unlock that secondary charge move and use it as both a fire type attacker as well as a bug type attacker. As both, it's actually pretty decent to use. And not to mention, it's a fun flex because this Pokemon is just so rare in game. And if you happen to get that shiny Volcarona, man, that'd be really cool to run. So again, Overheat or Bug Buzz as far as the movesets you want to go with, alternate the fast move between either fire or bug, and then use it as you choose. Now our final 3 Pokemon of this video are going to be Shadow options. So the first one is going to be Shadow Chandelure with Overheat and Shadow Ball as the charge moves. Again, just alternate between the fast move with either Ghost or Fire. Now as far as the relevance here goes, as a Fire type, it's pretty damn solid, and as a Ghost type, it's really solid. So you can't go wrong with this investment. I think this one is one of the better ones in this category for sure. If you do happen to get a good IV spread on a Shadow Litwick at any point in time, I don't think it's currently in rotation, but if you have one from before, man, it's very much worth building in my opinion. The next Pokemon is going to be Shadow Metagross. This isn't one you have to alternate the fast move on, but for the charge moves you want to go with Meteor Mash as a legacy charge move. So again, you will have to use an Elite TM, that's very important for this Pokemon, and then Earthquake. And once again, you can definitely use the regular version here as well because it is going to get a Mega Evolution very soon, in which case it's going to be quite useful. And I actually also want to mention this as well. If you don't want to run Earthquake, you could also run Psychic. Metagross takes on the dual typing of Steel and Psychic, so I mean, you could use it as a Psychic type Mega in the future once that does get released into Pokemon Go. I think that could be pretty good. But in terms of like Master League relevance, Meteor Mash plus Earthquake I think is just better coverage. Same thing with Rocket Battles. And once again, either Shadow Metagross, Mega Metagross, regular Metagross, I do think any of these options are going to be worth that secondary charge move unlock, because Metagross is just so useful in so many aspects of the game, especially if you have like a Dynamax Metagross. That could be even better, right? Like a super good IV spread Dynamax Metagross, that would be fantastic because you could use it in max battles, you can use it in Master League, you can use it in Rocket Battles, you can use it in Raid Battles. But I do want to invite you guys to actually let me know if there's any Pokemon you think I missed in this video. This was a video that I had done back in 2018, so it's taken me a really, really long time to actually update it, and therefore I think there's plenty of Pokemon out there that, you know, people probably do unlock that secondary charge move on, maybe in the early game, maybe in their mid game, and I'd love to hear about all of them, because when I go back to update this in the future, hopefully it doesn't take me like, you know, 5 years, but hopefully, you know, maybe in the next year or two, when I go back to update this, I can look at some of the options you guys did recommend that I didn't cover in this video. Anyways, with that being said, that pretty much covers everything I wanted to go over in this video. Hopefully you guys did find it helpful. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, and if you do want to check out some more content, I'm going to recommend these 2 videos next.